Thanks for joining us for this Las Cruces Municipal Election Forum. I'm Fred Martino, Director of Content for KRWG. We're hosting today's forum with the League of Women Voters of Greater Las Cruces, and it's just that, a forum, a chance for us to hear candidate views on a variety of issues. We ask the candidates to stick to their positions and refrain from mentioning their opponent. Candidates will have 1 minute to answer each question. Today, Las Cruces City Council District 6, and we welcome incumbent Seal Levatino and challenger Yvonne Flores. Thank you both for being with us.
Thank you for inviting us.
And we also welcome Kim Sorensen. She is the president of the League. Kim, it's great to have you here.
Thank you, Fred. It's been a pleasure.
And we know you have the first question.
I do. And this question goes to Seal. How important is the downtown to the economy of Las Cruces? How much should the city council be spending downtown, including the expense of tax deferments?
Good question to start off with. The downtown is vitally important to the economy of Las Cruces. And I think we're seeing that as we have more and more events downtown, particularly in the plaza. Last Friday night we had the wrap up to the Aggie rally. And the plaza was filled. I mean, it literally was packed with people. And we had the different teams from NMSU and the cheerleaders and the dancers and the bands, and it was just a great event. So I don't think there's any question that the downtown is very important. What was the second part of that question?
How much should the city council be spending downtown, including the expense of tax deferments?
Okay. The money that's spent on downtown comes from the TID, which is the tax increment district. The money comes from the gross receipts taxes that are collected down there. The taxes go to the state, and then the state reimburses us a percentage of that. And that's the money that goes into an account for the spending in downtown.
Okay.
I believe that the downtown of any city is vitally important. What we've seen in looking at other cities that have a vibrant downtown is that it's more attractive to industry and businesses, which would, of course, spur economic development. For example, Dallas and Chicago were contenders for Boeing's relocation, or to locate Boeing there, and they decided on Chicago, and the reason was because it has a vibrant downtown. So I believe that as long as we have that TIDD money, which is generated from GRT, we'll continue to have funds, and it'll be a nice cause and effect. Once we get more arts, we get more businesses, we get more money generated from the GRT.
Okay, Yvonne, we begin with you on this question. What are the three most important issues facing Las Cruces in the next 5 years?
The first one, I believe, is the Plan for Las Cruces, which is a 20-year plan. It's comprehensive, and it looks at development, which is focuses on connectivity, and looks at all ages, from the very young to the aging population. And what that does is look at the demographics very carefully, and it plans around people and not around buildings. The other is a 5-year strategic plan. That is a plan that looks at engaging the community a lot more, and it took its first step by having the September meeting. The City Council had a meeting at the Regional Aquatic Center, and it talked about how it's expanding and how it's growing and adding an Olympic-sized pool, and so that strategic plan is reaching out to the community, which I totally endorse.
Okay, thank you. Seal?
Repeat the question.
Yes, the three most important issues facing Las Cruces in the next 5 years.
I think the three most important that we need to address, and frankly are addressing, are job training, having a skilled workforce, job creation, and infrastructure. Each one of those, I think, is important to our ability to attract new businesses, not only new businesses here, but have the businesses that are already located here expand. Our infrastructure needs updating, and I know we get a lot of complaints about how long it takes to redo a road, but once we've dug up the road, that's our opportunity to go down, put in high, whatever it's called, internet access, replace the pipes. Our pipes in the city, especially in the older parts of the city, are 50, 60, 70 years old, and they need to be replaced.
Okay, Seal. The Animal Services of the Mesilla Valley is a joint venture between the city and the county. What can the city do to improve its administration, and what should be its short and long-term goals?
That's a very good question for this time. We just had a joint meeting with the county last week, and this was the only subject that we talked about. It was specifically called to address this issue, and the city has proposed that we take over the control of the animal services. Right now it's split between the city and the county. We're working towards that. It's at the infancy stage at this point, but the center would be, I think, much better managed if we didn't have two competing entities with two different codes. Our city codes are different from the county codes as far as animals are concerned. There's a lot of things that we could do that the county has not been able to do because of financial restraints. So I think it would be excellent for us to take it over.
Yes, that's a very timely question. In fact, the meeting was held last Wednesday. It was a joint powers meeting, and it was decided that, well, there was no decision. It was just a discussion. There was no decision as to how it would go, but instead of a board running it, it would actually be overseen by the city. And so it'd be closer management of the activities there. And there were many concerns regarding the treatment of animals, the transportation of animals, and that would be the immediate goal. And how long it'll take for the city and county to come upon an agreement is unknown at this time, but it sounds like a good resolution. The other factor is the long-term goal of no-kill, and to save as many pets as possible, and also education.
Okay. Yvonne, we begin with you on this. What are 3 quality of life factors in Las Cruces you would act to maintain or achieve if elected?
The quality of life that I would love to achieve would be happiness. Studies have shown that the happier people are, the more productive the city or state or country is. National Geographic just had a wonderful, the November issue, had a wonderful story about the 3 most, the happiest places on earth. And it isn't Disneyland, believe it or not. It's actually Denmark, Costa Rica, and Singapore. And those 3 places had in common was that everybody was happy with the way they lived their lives. And it was because government was providing a lot of public services, swimming pools, places for families to meet, and that was absolutely wonderful. And that's what the Plan for Las Cruces is all about, and that's why I totally support it, and I hope it gets out of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
My experience with my constituents and as a realtor, the questions that I get asked most frequently by both groups is public safety. They want their neighborhoods to be safe. They want parks and recreation for their kids and for themselves. We have a large, as you know, retirement community here. So physical activity is important. They want the parks. They want the hiking trails and the walking trails. And the third thing is Good schools. Now, that's not something that the city necessarily has anything to do with, but actually later this year, the City Council will be having a special session with the Las Cruces Public Schools, and we will be discussing how we can coordinate and work together more closely.
Okay, Seal.
Yeah.
Recent studies indicated a need for nearly 5,000 rental and over 4,000 home ownership units. How will you address these needs?
I, as one counselor, can't. My answer to this is, I think, a little bit surprising to people. If we want to really address this issue, and this is a long-standing issue in Las Cruces, the city needs to get out of the way. We have a woman by the name of Rose Garcia here who runs Tierra del Sol. She is a recognized national expert on low-income housing, and yet she struggles over and over again to get low-income housing built here. Part of it is because the city has, in many ways, blocked it. And I know it sounds crazy, but I really do believe that the city needs to get out of the way. Be there to help where we can help, but otherwise get out of the way and let the experts take care of this issue with our support.
Well, the one way that I've been reading up on this and learning about affordable housing, it's something that is quite glaring. There are many cities in the United States that work with HUD, and they provide a lot of affordable housing through their vouchers. And what El Paso, for example, has done is taken over the management. HUD actually handed it over and said, we don't want to handle it anymore, you take care of it. So in doing so, the vouchers are targeted for the certain population, and it's a promised amount of money. And what El Paso did was get investors to come in and take that promised money and invested that in developing more housing. It's a lot more complicated than that, but that would be one solution.
Yvonne, describe how you will use facts and opinions to make decisions if you serve on the council.
Well, good question. Opinions are like noses, everybody has one. But I think that opinions coming from a constituency means that there's a complaint. And I would listen to the complaint, address it, and define what the problem is with the constituent, and look at the facts. Look to see if there's some validity in that opinion. So I'm a good listener, being a school teacher at various levels, and being an attorney. I believe I had to learn to be a good listener. So I think that's how I would approach the facts and opinions question. Thank you.
I tend to be very data-driven. I like seeing studies, and a lot of what we do on City Council is data-driven. We have staff coming to us, bringing us information so that we can form opinions on how we're going to vote. I don't agree that opinions are complaints. 4 years of experience has taught me that many of the constituents have opinions on how things can be better, how things can be changed. It doesn't necessarily mean they are complaining. It simply means they think they have a better idea, and quite often they do. So you have to be able to listen. As you know, I'm a former nurse, and it's been interesting to see over the last 4 years how my nursing, the skills that I was taught as a nurse, apply to this.
Okay, Seal.
Yeah.
Do you support public financing of local elections, and why or why not?
No, I don't. I have a real philosophical problem with taxpayers' dollars going to support candidates. I think part of what we as candidates do is show our seriousness about running by going out and encouraging people to support us, not only with their votes, but with their financial support. And my big concern is the city has a balanced budget. And in order for money to go to support God only knows how many candidates, where is that money going to be taken from? Are we going to take it from Meals on Wheels? Are we going to take it from the senior centers? Are we going to take it from the programs that our Parks and Rec have for our kids, after school programs? Where is that money going to come from?
I support public financing, and Common Cause gave a good presentation to the city. Craig Fensky, in fact, was a person who presented, and his explanation was that it was feasible in any city in the United States. Albuquerque has been very successful, as has Santa Fe, in having public financing. And it was demonstrated in this last election in Albuquerque, where Tim Keller ran as under the public financing, and he was successful. My concern is dark money, not knowing where that PAC money's come from, where that PAC money comes from. There's never been any way, especially with Citizens United now. You just don't have any way of knowing where that money is coming from. And I think that's far more dangerous. Many governments, in fact, support public financing. It's not just the United States. It makes democracy work.
Okay. Yvonne, if elected to the City Council, please identify and describe your most important constituents.
My most important constituents are all the residents of Las Cruces. And let me tell you why. Because District 6 would have an accessible counselor to go to call, to meet with, and discuss the issues that touch and concern that person's life. As a counselor, decisions are made that affect everyone's lives. So I feel that there'd be that responsibility, that moral responsibility to everyone. Needless to say, people feel that if a certain district elected you, that you should be only concerned with that district. But that's not how it really works once that vote gets before the City Council.
I disagree. My first responsibility is to the people who live in my district. District 6 is the largest district, and it's the most diverse district. You have 3 very distinct areas, and you have to be willing to work with everybody. Yes, a lot of the votes concern the entire city, but my focus has been on doing what's been needed for District 6. It's the fastest growing district. We have created more jobs in District 6 than any other district. We have the best streets. We have street lights going up. We have stop signs going in. I was able to find the money to put up the pedestrian activated warning lights by Veterans Park, so that when people are trying to cross that street, they're not endangering themselves and their families. You have to focus on the district that you've been elected to work for.
Okay, Seal again. What could the City Council do to encourage the residents to vote and become more engaged in community issues?
Oh boy. I think there's I think there are several ways that we can do a better job. I think we need to be much more active as far as getting press, the media involved. KRWG has always done a great job, particularly with the forums that we do every election cycle. A lot of it is just education. I have an email list, a City Council email list of over 400 people who get regular emails from me, and encouragement to be engaged. Come to City Council meetings, address the council with your issues, be aware of the meetings that we're taking on the road. Our next City Council meeting later in November will be at the new East Mesa Public Safety Complex.
Yvonne?
I think that the way to get people engaged is to start at a very young age. And it isn't a question of getting flyers out into the community and expecting people to show up at a meeting. It's a question of people being civically engaged from a very young age, and that's where education comes in. I love the way the city is engaged with LCPS, Las Cruces Public Schools, and specifically with the Lynn Middle School, which is a community school, which offers many services beyond teaching kids from 8 to 3 o'clock, or whatever the school hours are these days. And it goes beyond the regular school hours. There's evening programs, weekend programs, and there's also an effort to change the curriculum and to add to the curriculum insofar as civics is concerned.
Okay. Yvonne, there have been requests by some to block the increase in the Las Cruces minimum wage to $10.10 an hour in 2019. If elected, how would you vote on this issue and why?
I would vote for the next increment, which is in 2019, which would make the minimum wage $10.10. And there is an ordinance now that went into effect in 2015, which sets forth the minimum wage, which is a little over $8. But servers, for example, are limited to earning $3.36, I believe, just a little over $3 per hour. And then there's a lot of exemptions in that too. Teenagers are exempted from the minimum wage. I would like to see certain things changed about that, about the ordinance. But insofar as minimum wage goes, I believe that it's only a beginning, not an end. It's not a living wage. And with the vitalization of downtown and with the implementation of Plan for Las Cruces, we're more apt to attract industry and attract businesses and therefore generate more monies for this.
I would have to wait to see the data. We've had 2 increases already. We started out at $8.40. We've gone to $9.20. The next increase is 2019, I think, at $10.10. There has not been any data that has been presented to the City Council that shows whether it's successful or not. And without that data, we really don't know what the impact has been. So I want to see the data. I was thinking about this 4 years ago when you sat there with Leslie Cervantes. Leslie asked me this question, and she said, Seal, do you support an increase in the minimum wage? And I said, yes, I'd have no philosophical problem with increasing the minimum wage, and I voted for it twice. But I do believe it needs to be a fair minimum wage.
How important are the arts in Las Cruces, and how much taxpayer money should be expended by the city to support arts?
Wow, that's a good question. I absolutely support the arts. No question about that. How much money? I can't put a dollar figure on that. I think it depends on how the money needs to be spent. I would love to see the city take a portion of the money that's going into economic development and use that to promote Las Cruces as an arts destination. I think that would be one of the most efficient ways of using taxpayer dollars. We've got a great arts community. People here know about it, but I think getting the word out not only to the rest of the state, but to the rest of the country. Instead, forget Santa Fe. Come to Las Cruces and see what we have to offer. I think that's one way we could approach it.
I believe that art and culture, the arts and culture is very, very important to any community, and especially a developing community such as we are in Las Cruces. The fine arts, the performing arts are crucial to any civilized society. It began with the art of the cave paintings at Las Cruces in southern France. That was a form of communication and expressing your humanity. As far as the funding for that, the city is now in the process of applying for it to be designated an art and culture district. And once that's designated by the state, it can then apply for funding that would support the arts and culture. And by doing that, we then have a situation where it will be vibrant and therefore attract business.
Okay, one more question, and we are a little over on time. What two personal characteristics make you most qualified to serve on City Council? Yvonne?
First of all, I love to communicate with people. I love people. I love some more than others, but I do love people. And I love learning about them, and I love hearing their stories. As a professor and as an attorney, active member of the bar, I feel that I have that quality to communicate, listen, and identify the problem and get the solution. The other is precisely that I've been an educator and an attorney, and I have developed, perhaps innately already have some, but abstract and critical and analytical thinking. And I think that I bring that. The City Council has to look at a lot of regulations. The local ordinances have to be reviewed frequently, as well as the state and federal. So I know how to read, I know how to research, I know how to analyze, and I will bring that to the City Council. Thank you.
I think there's a couple of reasons why I'm the most qualified. Number one, I have 4 years experience. I also have a background in nursing and small business. And both of those have been instrumental and vital in my working with the rest of the council, the mayor, and my constituents, and the city as a whole. It's an interesting place to be. You walk in there and you think you know what you're doing. And as my predecessor, Sharon Thomas, once said, you spend your first 4 years learning and the second 4 years doing. I don't think it took me 4 years to learn, but there is a definite need to be willing to work with staff, understand process, understand the purpose of a bureaucracy, and know your place, and know what you can do and what you can't do, and then work very, very hard to accomplish things.
Seal Levatino and Yvonne Flores, candidates in District 6. Thank you for being with us.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
It was terrific.
Stay with us. We have a look at the candidates who will be telling us why they are running for Las Cruces Municipal Judge coming up next.